Hey guys, I'm Zach, and if you've been thinking about getting into 3D modeling so you can get the most out of your 3D printer, you are in the right place. I'm going to be introducing you to one of the most essential and powerful tools in 3D modeling, and that is the Revolve feature. This feature allows you to design circular and cylindrical objects. If you're familiar with woodworking or machining, this is kind of like your very own little digital lathe or reverse lathe. And I'm going to be getting into a bonus feature, which is teaching you how to mirror your sketch and use the circular pattern tool. And with these fabulous tools in hand, we're going to be designing this awesome little lighthouse for all of those lost 3D Benchies out there. So if you're new to this channel, first of all, welcome, and I'm happy to have you. And second, this video is episode 3 of my 3D modeling basics on Fusion 360 series. And if you start hearing some stuff that you might not be familiar with, you can always check out my previous episodes, because the information that I provide on this series kind of builds from episode to episode. You might get some context, but most likely you won't need it. But if you do, it's there. But enough about that. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is try to get some scale in our workspace, so we know how big we want our model. So let me show you how we're going to get that done. Okay, so first things first, let's pick the front view by using our handy little viewfinder cube at the top left of our workspace. And once our camera is aligned properly, we can pick the Create Sketch option, open a sketch on the front plane, and draw a vertical line right down the center of our workspace using the line tool. Once this is done, we're going to convert that line into a construction line, and now we can center that line with our origin point and give it a dimension of, let's say, 90 millimeters. Once our construction line is centered and measured, we can finish the sketch. Okay, so once we have our center line down and our dimensions measured, I'm gonna add a nice picture of a lighthouse on the front plane. So let me show you the way we do this. On the front plane, the way we do this is by going into our insert option on the main tool tab and selecting insert canvas. This is an incredible tool that allows you to bring a picture right into your workspace that we can use as a reference to model our part around. Once we choose the picture of the lighthouse we want, we have to let Fusion know where to put it. And we do this in this instance by picking the front plane just like with a sketch. Once that's done, we can drag and scale the image so the lighthouse matches the dimensions we set with the construction line. And now we can open a new sketch on the front plane and start out by drawing a line right down the middle, right on top of our construction line. This is going to be the axis we use to spin the profile of the lighthouse we're about to trace around. And once that's done, we can start tracing out the profile of the lighthouse using the line tool. I'm going to speed this part up. It's important to remember two main things at this point. The first is that you have to make sure the profile of your sketch is closed, meaning there's no gaps between all those little lines we drew, because I tend to find that's the #1 reason your profile won't extrude or revolve. Because if you don't have everything connected right, or you're missing a line somewhere, Fusion is going to give you some problems. Once we have our profile sketched out, we can 3Dize it by choosing our Revolve tool and picking our axis, which is of course the line we drew at the beginning, down the center of our sketch. Once we finish tracing the lighthouse profile, we can finish the sketch and choose the Revolve tool from our Create toolbar at the top. Then selecting first the axis and then the profile we sketched out of the lighthouse, and ta-da! We have a 3D model. At this point, I want to get a better view of the model, and the canvas image of the lighthouse is kind of getting a bit in the way. So let's take care of that. The easiest way to do this, I find, is by selecting the canvas in our history tree at the bottom left of our workspace and double-clicking it, and the edit feature option window for the lighthouse image should pop up. And in the options window, we can see the canvas opacity option. If we drop it to 0, our lighthouse image disappears. And now we can see the model much better. So at this point, we're basically done the main body. But of course, there are some essential details we got to get right, specifically the windows. And for this, we're going to use a few awesome new tricks. So let's jump right in. Okay, so at this point, now that we saw the main outline of our model and it looks good, we still need the details. So for this, we're going to bring back the opacity of our lighthouse image by going back to our history tree and essentially reversing our last step. Once we can clearly see the windows, we can start a new sketch on the front plane and pick the lowest window to trace out. For this model, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's important that the window is symmetrical. So I'm going to draw a line down the center of the window and trace out only 1/2 using the line tool. We see that the top of the window is arched. So to get this done right, I'm going to go to the creative drop-down menu and hover over the arc option. This is going to give us a few different arcs we can use for our sketch. But for now, we're going to pick the 3-point arc. This is an awesome tool that will let us draw an arc between 2 points and let us dial in the radius with the third. For the first point of the arc, I'm going to select the top of our window profile line and the tippy top of the midline. And now if we move the arc around, we can feel an almost tactile kind of click when the tangent levels out. This is where we're going to click the mouse and make the third point, because now we can easily mirror the profile we just made to make a perfectly symmetrical shape. And our two different style windows are mirrored up. We can now use the rectangular pattern tool we can find under the create option. And using this tool, we can copy the sketch we just made along a path. Or alternatively, for the purpose of this video, we can drag it along with the arrow that popped up. You can choose how many instances are copied and how far they are from each other. For right now, we're going to drag out 3 instances of the window and match them up to the picture using the arrow button. Once this is done, we can finish the sketch and move on to finishing up the lighthouse. At this point, we have most of the lost Benchy lighthouse, and all we have left is some finishing touches, which brings me to my next important point. A word from our sponsor, which again is me, because I have no sponsors, because I'm a tiny little channel. Anyway, if you find you're getting some value from this, please consider subscribing and liking this video, because it really does help me out a lot, more than you think. And if I still have your valued attention, I find it's very important to show gratitude in this life. And in the same breath, I would like to say thank you to all the amazing people I found on this platform, and to all those people that have been showing me continuous support throughout all of these little video endeavors I've been making. And I really want to say thank you for all of those kind comments. They really do make a huge difference to me, and I read and hear each and every one of them. So thank you for your time. And with that, let me show you how to finish the lighthouse. Okay, so before that slightly sappy personal message, we left off at the end of the sketch we made. We copied the windows along the lighthouse. And now once the sketch is done, we can use the emboss feature I love so much, the one we used in the last episode. And using the emboss option, we can now engrave the window sketches we made onto the surface of the lighthouse. Once the windows are engraved, now we can sketch out the window on the upper portion and repeat the process we did in the previous segment. Let's speed that one up and get on with the part. Okay, so at this point, you have likely noticed a big flaw. With the lighthouse, we only have windows down one side. It's a circular object. I don't know how it has a side, but down one side. And you can probably figure out the ongoing trend in CAD, and thus the way we're going to fix this issue, which is a very good sign. And of course, you're probably right. Big surprise, we're going to be using a pattern. It's important for me to point out that this feature, the mirror feature, and pattern features in general, are in my humble opinion, the gateway to really understanding the power CAD software has to offer, and is the stepping stone to mastering 3D modeling. Once you get the grasp of making models based on repeatable geometry, whether it's the mirror feature or the pattern features, it's definitely going to unlock a lot of the power this software has to offer. But anyway, let's jump back into Fusion, and let me show you how to get this done. Once we have all of our windows embossed and aligned down the middle of our lighthouse on the front plane, we have an incredible tool we can use in CAD, and that is the circular pattern tool. The way we get this done is we go down to the pattern option in our create menu in the toolbar. And with this in hand, we can select the features or bodies we want to make a pattern with. In this case, it's the emboss feature we want to pattern. So in the options window that popped up on the side, we're going to select the feature option in the object type menu and click on one of the faces of the windows we cut out with the emboss feature. And once that's done, we have to choose an axis to spin the pattern around. And for this, we're going to pick one of the circular edges surrounding the model to spin the pattern around. Once that's done, we can do the same process we just covered for the upper middle section of our tower, but I'm going to add 6 instances instead of 4. And using the same technique, I'm going to add some detail to the upper portion of the lighthouse, some large squares. And with that, we can save the model, export it to an STL, and send it off to the printer. And with that, we're done modeling a lighthouse for all those lost Benchies out there. If you find this video valuable, please consider subscribing so you can see more crazy, goofy tutorials. I'm planning to come out with more of these in the future. It might take me some time. If this is something that interests you, hit me up with a comment down below. And if this is the first video you've watched in the series, check out the playlist, because I think it's valuable. If you like this one, you might like this one next. Bye.